Hey, what's up? How's it going? James here. Hope you have a good day or good evening where you at. Well, I thought I'd come across a video that, you know how some people say that some things of the past, why can't bygones be bygones, right? And why don't we just get over it because the past is just the past? Well, I'm about to show you two stories of something that happened recently. Um, these two content creators, one called Black Witch Yaya, and this other content Instagram Bear is going to show you something, tell you a story about a black town that was once existed, and it got swallowed up, and the racism that they did in America back then. Uh, they covered town.
I can
So
give you a glimpse into that life
you're
now.
about to find out what the story's about.
Hello you all, I'm Black Witch Yaya. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I tried to come up with a nice cold open for this video, but honestly I want to take this Lake Lanier situation layer by layer. So I want to start from the beginning. And by the beginning, I mean what Lake Lanier was before it was a lake. Lake Lanier is located in Forsyth County, while the actual shorelines covers about 5 counties: Dawson, Forsyth, Gwinnett, Hall, and Lumpkin. We all may be familiar with Lake Lanier from a few of the several hundred accidents that has taken place there. But before Lake Lanier was known to be one of the deadliest destinations in America, it was actually a town of thriving black people called Oscarville. So where this entire lake is now currently, it was actually a town before it got drowned out. During the Reconstruction era in the 1800s, Oscarville was a prosperous black community with nearly 1,100 residents, most of whom were freed after fighting in the American Civil War. 58 of those residents were landowners, and the occupations consisted of carpenters, blacksmiths, bricklayers, and farming was the top trade. Due to the fact that they had the best harvest while the rest of the state was struggling, they managed to make a decent living for themselves, creating a healthy community with churches, schools, and businesses. So even though this town was very prosperous, black people were doing their thing, they still had to keep one eye open. They just had a heavy fear of violence that could take place in their community, and this fear enhanced especially after the race riots that took place in 1906. And soon that fear would manifest through several incidents. So before we get into what happened, let's talk about what's going on now. Of course, this is a black community. These are freed blacks. They're actually working, making a living for themselves, and then they have the nerve to have the best crops in the state. So of course, who's going to get jealous? The white people, because they weren't expecting them to be as successful so quickly. They thought, who are you? Why do I have to come to you for stuff? So of course, all this tension is going on. So there were several incidents that happened, like I said before, and I'm getting this straight off of news1.com because I did not want to miss a detail, because this all leads to the drowning out of Oscarville. So on September 5th, 1912, a 22-year-old white woman by the name of Ellen Grice claimed 2 black men tried to rape her. They were unsuccessful because they were scared away by her mother. The Forsyth County Sheriff arrested 5 black men in the alleged assault. News of the attack and arrest caused quite a stir in the surrounding black communities. A vocal pastor in the area by the name of Grant Smith appealed to the sheriff to release the men. He claimed there wasn't much evidence to hold all 5 men accountable for the assault, and he also suggested that one of the men could have already been in a consensual relationship with Grice. Of course, many whites were outraged by Smith's allegations, and an angry mob beat and horsewhipped the preacher on the steps of the courthouse, nearly taking his life. So that was the first incident, and just 1 week later, on September 12th, 1912, an 18-year-old white woman named Mae Crow was raped and beaten in the Big Creek community of Forsyth County, Georgia. The next morning, Crow's body was found half naked, bloody, and hidden under a pile of leaves. Her skull had been bulged with stone, but she was alive and barely breathing. Searchers would allegedly find a small pocket mirror at the scene of the crime that was said to belong to Ernest Knox, a 16 16-year-old black boy from Cumming, Georgia. Knox was arrested at his home, then subjected to a mock lynching, which led to his forced confession for the attack on Crow. And we know during this time, it seems that anytime a white person got hurt, especially white women, the only thing they decided to do was point the finger at the closest black person. I'll almost say something else. At the closest black person that they could find, just to put the blame on someone else and just consider them like, oh, just put the blame on them. Someone needed to be held accountable for it instead of actually doing an intense investigation to figure out what happened. As word spread on the attack on Crow and the confession by Knox, whites became increasingly angry. It wasn't long before a lynch mob formed in front of the jailhouse where Knox was being detained. Officers had to sneak Knox out of the back door so he wouldn't come face to face with the mob who were attempting to hang him. He was taken into jail in Atlanta for his protection, but would soon stand trial for the attack. The next day, 4 additional men, Oscar Daniel, Rob Edwards, Jane Daniel, and Ed Collin, were arrested and taken into custody, suspected to be accomplices to the 16-year-old. Of course, all of them were black. Soon, another angry mob of more than 2,000 racist white people had stormed the county jail, gaining access to the cells. They shot and killed Rob Edwards, dragged his body from the jailhouse, and hung him outside on a telephone pole. Ernest Knox and Oscar Daniel were both found guilty of the rape of Mae Crow. They were sentenced to death by hanging, even though it was illegal by state law at the time. 8,000 racist whites in the town congregated around town square of Cumming to watch 2 teenage boys get publicly hanged for an alleged crime they never truly had the opportunity to fight. It was after this hanging that the terror would begin to spread, as a white group of terrorists known as the Night Riders would make it their mission to run every black person they came across out of their own town, Oscarville. Oscarville, of course, became one of the main targets, and over the short period of just a few years, 98% of its black residents would end up either leaving their homes or being murdered for refusing to leave. Black property deeds found their ways mysteriously into the hands of white neighbors without any bill or safe or transfer. This effectively allowed many whites to steal the land once owned by their black counterparts when they were driven out by the Night Riders. Over 1,100 black residents would lose their livelihood, and in a town once a flourishing African American community would become a ghost town. So just from my perspective and all the history that I've learned in school, the movies I've watched, I honestly feel all of this was a setup. I feel that with these incidents happening back to back, either one, it was a white person who was doing it that was just on the loose and they just decided to blame a black person, or they finally got fed up and jealous of the flourishing black people in their town and wanted to take over, and the best way to do it was, let's get mad because they hurt a white woman and let's drive them out. I don't know if they thought those 2 incidents would scare them away and they would naturally go, but just with those 2 incidents happening, the hangings, the mobs, and then all of a sudden their deeds are being put into the hands of white people. They're stealing their land, and honestly with the farms, they didn't even know what to do with it, because in 1915 a boll weevil infestation killed crops on Oscarville. That was basically due to the fact that them white farmers didn't know what the hell they were doing, so they started ruining the crops. Though they ultimately survived the weasel infestation, being one of the few regions in the state to escape total dissemination, made them eager to share their methods, which basically they were just using chicken poop to fertilize the ground. But this eventually got the attention of the Atlanta mayor, who was developing a dam to ensure the city's water supply, hydroelectric needs, and flood control. He spent 2 years working with the Army Corps of Engineers to seize nearly all of that recovered farmland. So when this farmland was actually sold, they gave the black people pennies on the dollar, basically nothing for their land, and it left the 58 residents who was actually landowners nothing. They couldn't pass down nothing to their generations. Over time, pieces of the land would be sold to the government, and by 1950, a plan to build Lake Lanier was in full effect. Soon the entire town of Oscarville would be underwater, intentionally flooded in conjunction with the Beaufort Dam to support the growing demand for a water supply to the nearby cities. The reservoir would be named after Sidney Lanier, a poet and a musician, and also a Confederate private. In the end, construction would destroy more than 50 acres of farmland and displace more than 250 families. It would relocate 20 cemeteries and their corpse, in what some may see as an attempt to erase the sins of its past. The lake was 692 miles of shoreline and is 26 miles long, covering almost 47 miles of the original riverbed. At the dam, the lake is more than 200 feet deep, And just to add emphasis on how deep this water is, there are trees that are underneath this lake that stand over 60 feet tall. Lake Lanier is considered full when it's at its peak at 1,071 feet above sea level. The current lake level normally rises during the winter and early spring and falls during the hot summer months. So after the black population was drove out of Oscarville, the community maintained a white-only policy far into the 1980s to convey a sense of how committed Forsyth County residents were to racial purity. In the 1950s and 60s, there were no colored drinking fountains, there were no whites-only restaurants, there were no inhabitants to segregate in the county, and spaces were solely open to white residents. National civil rights activities organized the Brotherhood March in 1987, which drew a considerable number of people from outside the county. They were quickly overwhelmed by crowds of rock-throwing rioters yelling racial slurs. So now we know about Oscarville, what happened to Oscarville. Of course, white people running amok. So this is where some of the eerie history comes into play. I want to pause right here. So we have a town that was filled with flourishing black people making their own, being landowners, getting their footing in the world after being freed. Then you have the white people being jealous, hatred, and just flat out racist, demonic creatures. I'm talking about these people that just destroyed their livelihood, stole and just killed them. So that just destroyed their livelihood, stole from them, killed them, and just destroyed everything they had going on. So this is where the eerie history comes into play, because when they flooded out this town, it was a lot of stuff left over. By stuff, I mean the actual community. They decided just to leave some houses up. They destroyed some houses, left the brick houses up. It seems like a rush job. They just tore down whatever they felt like tearing down. The rest, they just left it. They thought, hey, it's going to be underwater. Who cares? But let me tell you who cares. Them 11 million unmarked graves of people who are still buried underneath the surface cares. So as I told you before, they removed the corpse in the tombstones of marked graves. Who knows where they put them? They said they relocated them. Sure, of course. Okay, I'll believe that. But what about the unmarked graves? What about the individuals that were left in their houses? What about the individuals that you killed and just left stranded there? They're all still underneath that water. Let's talk about the Orisha aspect. You guys know water, Yemaya, Oshun, just sticking to Yemaya in this case. We know that there are certain times of the year, and usually this is hurricane season. And in the Paraki, and the story is told that Yemaya started having flashbacks, getting re-mad about how the slaves were brought across the water. There's also a part in there where she's mad at Shango because he didn't help. So there's a part within hurricane season where it shares that this is the time of year where Yemaya gets mad about the slave trade. She starts disrupting the waters and causing natural disasters. So you have a town that was filled with black flourishing people, then you cover with water, messing with their water spirit that's there to protect black people, and you wonder why people drown every 5 minutes, because I feel that they're trying to collect the number of souls that was taken from them to make it even. So what, 1,100 residents, y'all got 700 people that drowned so far, and I'm sure there's going to be much more to come. I wonder if the number is going to stop at 1,100. That would be creepy. Could you imagine if it stops at 1,100 because it was 1,100 residents there? So they're trying to collect the souls back of what was once there. So stories about mysterious underwater sightings are eerie, and they usually happen around Halloween. But the true backstory of Lake Lanier, built over an underwater ghost town, since the creation of Lake Lanier, there has been over 700 deaths since 1956 to 2023. The causes of death vary. You have boating accidents, drownings, and just mishaps. Those who have survived any type of close calls, they say they know how to swim. They've been swimming since they were a kid. They don't understand what happened. And usually, if you're drowning, just stay calm. You'll float to the top. But they said when they're underwater, it feels like they're gently being pulled down. For some odd reason, when they try to swim back up to the top, they felt heavier than usual. And they just felt a limb, like their arm or their leg, being pulled back down. They had to fight their way back up to the top. It wasn't as natural as it comes when they're swimming in the pool or swimming in any other body of water. And there are several stories of people who share this. If they almost had a drowning accident, flipped off of those little ski things, whatever people do in water, anytime they have to swim back up, it almost feels like someone is pulling them back down. It's not an easy float like it usually would be for for an experienced swimmer. So of course, my witchy self, I'm like, those must be the people who are still underneath there who were killed. And I'm sure they didn't even take the time to go through those houses to make sure all the residents were actually left or actually disposing of bodies that were killed. I'm sure they just left them there and was like, well, they're gonna be underwater. So that's the spiritual aspect that I have on it. But many researchers have stated it could be due to the heavy debris at the bottom of the lake. That debris being Oscarville, because it's still a whole community and tombstones down there. Just imagine a neighborhood. There are still houses, there are still streets, there are still crosswalks. And I'm sure you guys know it's considered disrespectful to damage anyone gravesite, tombstone, to pee on it, to mark on it, to paint it, to take stuff away from it, which we need to do a video on. You should not be taking flowers away from a tombstone that don't belong to you. I'm sure y'all know, but there's a story behind it. But it's considered disrespectful to do any type of damage or stealing from a tombstone. So imagine the anger that's enraged by these spirits when they just didn't damage it. They just decided to flood it out. So with this flooded lake with all of this debris, which is a town, when someone does drown or go missing, they kind of find it a little too dangerous for divers to go in trying to find them because of how deep and dangerous the lake is. So a lot of times they're just...
What she's talking about, here are the victims of Lake Lanier. Just in case somebody don't believe that this stuff is happening. Here's all the people of Lake Lanier. These people drown. These people drown.
It's like, we'll see if they float to the top. We'll see if they come a little bit higher, but it's more dangerous for us to go down there than for us just to sit and wait to see if they float up. But a lot of times the bodies don't float up because they're caught by trees. They literally may get stuck in a house that's underneath the... They literally may get stuck in the window that was of a house. And some divers who are brave enough to get even close to the floor of this lake say they have found limbs of dead people. So now let's get into the haunting aspect of Lake Lanier because there is a story behind it, and this story is called The Lady of the Lake. In April of 1958, Delia Mae Parker Young was reportedly traveling with Susie Roberts to the Three Gables, a local roadhouse in Dawsonville, Georgia. Susie was driving her 1954 Ford across the Lanier Bridge when, for some unknown reason, she lost control of the car, crashing off the right side of the bridge. Divers entered the lake and searched the area, but neither the vehicle nor any remains were discovered. The physical evidence of the occurrence was skid marks suggesting that the woman's car went into the lake. Then a year later, in 1959, a fisherman discovered human remains that had floated to the surface of the lake. Further examination yielded no obvious cause of death, and the individual could not be positively identified, although the body was noted for missing both hands and several toes. Many assumed these were the remains of Delia or Susie, but at the time it was impossible to know for sure. And it was only found because in November 1990, they drained the lake a little bit because they were preparing to do pillars for the bridge, and unexpectedly, the shell of a rusted out car was discovered with human remains still inside behind the wheel. This lady was still behind the wheel. Searching through the personal belongings in the car, a purse, ring, and a watch, Susie Roberts was able to be identified, and in light of this discovery, it was concluded that the young woman found decades before was in fact Delia Mae Parker Young. For 3 decades, Susie Roberts was trapped in her car, hidden under 90 plus feet of water, stuck within tree trunks, mud, and other debris that made up the bed of Lake Lanier, but now she could be properly laid to rest. It is this tragedy that has been the foundation of the most persistent legends associated with Lake Lanier. The soul of a young woman in a blue dress that has been reportedly seen time and time again walking up and down the length of Lanier Bridge, and according to those who have seen this spirit, who has become known as Lady of Lake Lanier, she is missing her hands. So the soul of this individual has been spotted several times by different individuals, and they all describe her as wearing a blue dress and missing her hands. So as I'm looking through the dates, I see the lake was officially created in 1956. Those 2 young women died in 1958. For there to be a whole story behind them, Lady of the Lake, I wonder what makes them so special. But I wonder what makes those energies so special where it's actually being seen by other individuals. I'm thinking, was that the first person that was killed by the lake? They say the incident started in 1956, the first year that it was made. I want to make the connection of what was about them that made them ghosts that haunted the land and make other people recognize them so much. Because when you ask separate people, you can ask them in a separate room, they're all going to describe the person as the same thing. A lady in a blue dress walking up and down a Lanier Bridge out by the water at night, scaring fishermen, scaring divers. When people go underwater and they feel like they're about to drown, they see this individual. They're all describing the same thing. So I wonder what was it about her that actually made her stay on the premise and haunt the land. I wonder what she related to one of the people who really did some damage. But we're going to continue. So the next ghost that is known to hunt Lake Lanier is a mysterious raft seen floating on the lake late at night. Its inhabitant, a shadow figure pushing along with a pole, a lantern lighting his way. Those who have made claims to have seen this nocturnal soul say it seems to appear and disappear out of nowhere. One such sighting was reported by two fishermen who claimed to have seen it at about 1 a.m. on a cold autumn night. The raft was spotted in a section of the lake that is known to be roughly 45 feet deep, yet the raft's rider seemed to have no difficulty navigating the water with a pole to push him along. The two fishermen watched as a figure traveled along before suddenly shouting and jumping from the raft into the freezing water. Afraid something was coming for them, the two fishermen quickly pulled their lines and prepared to leave the area. But when they shined their lights across the water, there was no sign. I'm going to tell you the easiest way to make money at home, and you 100% have never heard of this before. So most people quickly pulled their lines and prepared to leave the area. But when they shined their lights across the water, there was no sign of the raft or the figure. The dark surface of the lake, calm and undisturbed, as if nothing ever happened. Those who believe this tale to be true believe the mysterious figure was in fact an echo of the past, when men once traveled the shallow rivers and creeks among the foothills of northern Georgia that have since been consumed by Lake Lanier. So a lot of people think in these instances, the residents of Oscarville, the black people, want their community back. Those who refuse to leave still refuse to leave to this day. So they're carrying on with their business. They would see ghosts of women shopping. They would see ghosts of men farming. Of this one traveling across the water, basically doing their daily operations, but on the lake. But to them, their spirit is still in Oscarville at the surface when it was visible to everyone else. So every now and then, individuals would catch these spirits and ghosts just carrying on with their day. And as soon as they try to get clarity or get closer, the spirit disappears. So as I stated in my Myrtle Plantations video, usually when these spirits linger around certain areas where they were killed, or in this case, forcefully removed, they have unfinished business. Sometimes spirits are like, okay, you may have taken me away from this space in the physical sense, but my spirit still remains here. I still want to carry on and live here. So I feel like that's why a lot of the spirits are being seen. And then I also said, like before, I feel like they are trying to claim those numbers back. So I believe at 1100 it may stop, or they may try to double it or triple it. They say magical things happen in threes. Not wishing that on anyone. I wish no one else would pass in that lake. But just from my standpoint on usually how spiritual interactions and exchanges works, I'm like, it has to be evened out. And you guys know, naturally, you may hear the saying that oceans carry secrets at the bottom of the waters, treasures, all of the riches are at the bottoms of bodies of water. That's why a lot of people throw money into water, because it's them tapping into the riches and the wealth that could come from it. And also when people meditate or they want to relax, they usually listen to ocean waves or go out by the ocean. It's usually relaxing because it's tapping into the inner you, the secrets, the what's below the surface, literally. So I feel with Oscarville being at the bottom of this lake is holding secrets, is holding a dark past, and is holding vengeance. Because where else in the world do you know a lake that's consistently taking bodies and people who consistently go? Now, I said I would go to a haunted house. Lake Lanier, I don't even want to drive by it. No, I don't want to be nowhere near it. I don't think I'm excluded. I don't know what white man may be in my lineage that's connected to Georgia, because you know I'm Geechee. I don't know what's, no. And Lanier is like a last name in my family. No, I'm good. To my cousin, I know she's watching this, I love you, but no, you shouldn't go either, because you have that last name. So, but you guys let me know down below on the ocean floor. What do you guys think about Lake Lanier? What do you...
They said in 1990, more than 200 people died at Lake Lanier between 1994 and 2022. 200 people. And what she said about 1,000. Here's the article. Back into what she said. Now I'm going to show you another video. See how real this thing is.
Ladies and gentlemen, over the weekend, this past Sunday, there was another drowning at Lake Lanier. You know, this was the 7th one, and if you remember back in July, there were, I believe, 4 drownings in 1 week. Yeah, I mean, it is really crazy, and the last story I did was on, I believe the guy was 23, and he got electrocuted out there when he was on a jet ski, and he got electrocuted. And the other ones were drownings, people swimming in there. Now, the person that passed on this past Sunday, they said they found him in 10 feet of water. He went under and never came back up. They had to use sonar equipment to even find his body. But they were able to find him. But of course, by the time they did, he was already gone. And if you don't know the history, Lake Lanier was once a town called Oscarville. And this was a black town during that time. And angry white mobs would go in there, and you know, it's got an ugly history. And they decided to designate that area to make it a lake, and so they put all that water over a black town. But the beautiful part, you know, there's always some good in it. At least the offspring of the people that live there live to tell the story. Now, a lot of the stories that we got about Oscarville were family that lived, you know, in other parts of Georgia, but they knew what happened there. So, you know, a lot of people said the ancestors are coming back and getting these people, and that's why they're drowning out there, and all these accidents and mishaps, and it's been an awful lot of dead people since this became a lake. So let's get into the story. 23-year-old dies after going for a swim in Lake Lanier. So this is Gwinnett County, Georgia. A man is dead after officials said he went swimming in Lake Lanier. The Georgia Department of Natural Resources official told Channel 2 Action News just after 3 p.m. Saturday, game wardens, crews with Gwinnett County Fire and Forsyth County Sheriff's Office responded to reports of a possible drowning at Lake Lanier. According to the investigation, a man was swimming when he went under and did not resurface. When crews arrived, they located the swimmer in 10 feet of water with the help of a boat-mounted sonar. So officials confirmed the victim, 23-year-old Edgar Stephen Cruz Martinez, was dead when he was pulled from the water. No additional information was provided regarding this incident. Wow. I mean, it's been a crazy summer at Lake Lanier, that's for sure. It's been crazy. So that is the only thing that's on this, y'all, but I can tell you, I wonder why people keep going out to that lake knowing the history of what happened. And they keep going out there and dying. So there are more reports that said that he was trying to swim back ashore. So I guess he didn't make it. But it just seems like this summer has been really busy with the people going out there and dying, and boy, I don't think I would ever get in that lake, y'all. I don't think I would. Even if I felt like nothing was going to be, nothing was going to happen or anything, I would still feel uneasy about being at that place. And I have seen videos online where people said when you get around that lake, it's a very eerie feeling in the air. You can literally feel it as soon as you get in that area. And I really truly believe they are telling the truth. I do. There are certain things you can feel a spirit on. And I would not doubt, because of the ugly history of that place, it is definitely one of those locations. So over the years, many of the relatives of the people that live there have told their story about angry white mobs going in there, and the town was actually formed in the late 1800s during Reconstruction. That's when Oscarville came into existence. So a Georgia history teacher, her name was Lisa Cosby, said Oscarville was a thriving black community full of carpenters, blacksmiths, bricklayers, and farming were the top trades of the men in that town. And they had a lot of farming growth. So, that was one of those locations where black farmers were thriving at one point in time. And said the growth there was probably the biggest in the state of Georgia. Wow. And of course, whenever there's a thriving town, they got to always come along and try to do something to derail it. And that's exactly what they did, y'all. In 1912, there was a woman by the name of May Crow, 19-year-old white woman, found dead in the woods near Oscarville. Now, remember, this was not in Oscarville. It was in a town near Oscarville. And they presumed that she was assaulted, and of course, the white mob went into Oscarville to do the usual stuff, blame the black men there. No, it couldn't have been anybody that looked like her that might have done something, being it was outside of Oscarville. No, it had to be somebody in Oscarville that did it. You know how these people are. So when nightfall came, they all came together and drove the black community out of there. So there was a deconstruction of the city of Oscarville back in the 1950s, about 1959, and many people died in the attack. And they said when they had to move because the dam was being built, and they all did not get out of there. Some did make it out, some never made it out. And many of the people were trying to relocate from Oscarville to Gainesville. Okay? And unfortunately, a lot of them never made it at all. And I guess you want to know why the lake is literally, spirits are all around there, for real. I certainly understand why.
You see the skeletons I showed
But
you
y'all,
underwater?
please tell me what you think about
the graveyard?
this video.
Some people say, oh, that's just paranoid. Oh, that's just the past. Guess what? I'm about to show you the people who have passed away in Lake Lanier. That's just the past. That stuff didn't happen. That's just the past. Why you guys keep bringing stuff up? Why can't the past be the past? Past is the past, right? And it's like she said, the title said, I think their ancestors getting revenge. There's something around it. It might be some kind of portal. And all because America never acknowledged. And she won't say she's sorry. She won't take it. Then folks won't say that they're sorry. What we done is wrong. No. No. Not in that part of Georgia. Because it's a spirit of prejudice. Hatred towards black people. I keep telling that they had to, and you see it was jealousy, envious of this black town. So they had to make up a case to go excuse and murder, assassinate all those people. But they thought they was going to, they got by. And they got by, they got away with it. But generations later, some of these people's grandchildren paid the price. And it probably was related to the people that accused the black town of doing that. But there were a few black people that died too in it. There were a few black people that died in Lake Lanier too. Here's the graveyard. Again. Look at it. Here's a scuba diver. This again. This someone died, drowned at the house, with the skeleton still in remain. Just how cold America was. And the spears that they probably saw was probably of the skeletons. The spears that they saw, the skeletons under the water. This the evil that America did. This back in 1912. Then they said, get over the past, get over it. Get over it, black people. Just get over it. Just get over it. Just get over it. Forget that you murder these people out of jealousy and hatred. Now it's costing people's lives to this day. You see how the past repeats itself? And usually some people do drown. But at a drown like this, drown in 1 year, 200 drownings from 1994 to 2022. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. is the ladies of the past to drown. They died lying on a black, so they assassinated those people. And guess what? That was the past, right? That was the past, right? Because that's the past, you know. That's just the past, James. But in the present, what do you see? This woman died. What do you see? What do you see? Come on. She died. Who is she? Who is this woman? Atlanta woman. Let's see who she is. Her name is Madeline Singera, 31 years old, was reported missing from Hall County after she jumped off the boat into the lake to swim. The Hall County Sheriff released. She really got tired while swimming and couldn't make it back to the boat. And released she wasn't wearing a life jacket. A man on the boat tried to rescue her, but she became tired and attempted to throw a line to her several times. He told the deputies. After that, she disappeared. However, her attempts failed and wasn't able to locate Singera underwater. So she disappeared underwater. Generations later, by lying saying that this black town covered up for this black town covered for a black man because of a white woman. 2,000 white men cost generations to this day, and so the countdown began of vengeance from the ancestors. See, one thing people don't realize, you may get by in life, but you don't get away. You might get by some things. This was Della Mae Parker. Passed 1958. She passed in Lake Lanier. But that's just the past. It's still going on in the present. Now you see how the past connects to the present? This tells a story about a twisted history of Lake Lanier, the haunted Georgia reservoir with a racist past. Now you see, when I say racism is spiritual. Now you see, the spirit of hatred is in America. Now do you see? Now people can say that, and I bet you some people say, "Oh, that's just the past." You can't get over something that's been embedded, and racism was embedded here since the early 70s, and it still continued to this day. Still continue to this day. From all because of a lie. All because one group of people didn't like another group of people, so we got to find justification to take out these people and make them look like they're unreasonable, they're savages. So history, but who is the real savage? Because the people who was the real savage was the ones that took out these innocent black people who didn't do no wrong, and then Then they lynched an innocent person who had no doing. There was no proof and evidence. But because of hatred, this is what happened. Hatred did this. Racism did this. Racism did this, America. Racism did this. This the past. Racism did this. So don't let anybody tell you, just get over it. The past, get over it. Here's a cemetery of all that dead town full of black people. That's their graves. They're the ones in the graves. They include the people that died, that disappeared, some that recovered. Why can't America just get over it? Because America don't know how to recompense and say that she's sorry for what she do, because she won't take accountability. That's why, till this day, because this is the history of our country, and this is history that we don't want to talk about. This is part of the history of our country that we kind of like slide under the rugs. This is a part of the history. But now here's the remains. You know how they go up under the water and find Titanic, but they won't go up under the water and let too many people talk about this. Knowing that they did this racist act back in 1912. And the racist act is still going on to this day. Here's the church that the black people had. Here's a church from underwater. Submerged a 400-year-old church. This is what it looked like. What the Army engineers did. They drowned out these black people. They drowned them out. That's cold-blooded, ain't it? That's cold-blooded. You never can picture someone can do something that evil to another group of people on the planet. No one can picture something like that. But the pictures tell it. The hatred that America had. All because of skin color. All because of envious. All because of jealousy. All because of this. You know, did you know Lake Lanier had a drought? Here's some pictures from a drought. This is what the drought looked like. This is what the drought looked like. Yeah. And that's why some black people can't get over the past. So the answer to people's question, why can't black people just can't get over it? It's just so long ago. Why can't black people just get over it? Because it was a segment of black people that was put under the water on an unjustified reason, that were lynched. And then the spirit of racism still is in that part of Georgia, like it is in other parts of the country. People don't. I bet you some people probably thought I was nuts when I said that. Oh, you're making something big out of that. Oh, really? Oh, you guys are just making racial things. Just get over it. Just get over it. Okay. Okay. But whatever it was, something don't want to get over it down in that part. The spirits ain't getting over it. Even though and these spirits are from the past. Okay. Just get over it. Why don't you guys just get over it? Come on, let's. He'll overcome. Okay. 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 The past and the present. Young women, young white women. Remember, the past same place, same location, same place, same place. The present. Oh, it's some other one. Oh. These women keep messing up by Lake Lanier. These women came messing up by Lake Lanier. Look at the women. These women came messing up. To this day. So what do you think? So some people just think about that. Here's the article right here, 1994 to 2022. 200 people. Same place, Lake Lanier. 200, not 20, not 30, 200 from that year. In this year alone, in 2023, 39 people have drowned at Lake Lanier. They said the management said that an initiate swimming ban for safety reasons. After careful consideration, we have decided no longer offering swimming in Lake Lanier in May 24, 2023. So you can't swim there no more. There's a cemetery right under that water. And who would want to swim in an area of a lake with a cemetery up under the water? That what I just showed you. Would you swim in something like that? I know I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to even get into the water. There's no swim in the water. Why would anybody want to swim with something like this up under the water? This is up on the lake, 10 feet, 10 to 100 feet down. So I hope this has been a lesson for you. So hey, but that's the part of American history you need to know about. Alright then, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. Share it, like, and subscribe. Subscribe to those people's channel. And lesson learned. The only way America is going to have to repent and do what's right. If you don't pay reparations, that's okay. The ancestors gonna get it their way. What you didn't pay, they're gonna get it their own way. Didn't I say this? I said this. The elements. Some things ain't got attack you by flesh. You can't rest something that's not of this world. So those people that did those black people wrong, vengeance is coming at them. They're coming at they paying for what their ancestors did. Some of them, or with the people of the town who they were connected and related to. Even though that was 100-something years ago, you see the connection. And they were born and raised in that Georgia. They probably were related and connected. And there's nothing you can do. You can't rest the ghost. Can't rest the spirit. Can't kill them. They already did. Now that's the vengeance. And just like the lady said, I don't know about what the name she was using, but hey, there have been a hurricane season down there. Think about the weather. And those areas were slave port ships, where the slaves jumped off. They were killed, they were assassinated, thrown in the water. Think about it. But in America, that's just the past. Get over it. Come on, guys, just get over it. Okay? Woo! Just get over it. When they come for you, then you'll see what we're talking about. Now they see. Keep on being racist. It's gonna come back on you. No matter what position in life you at, from the low to the top. The ancestors are still, what they said, still coming. Those spirits are still coming. Think about it. Alright then. Till next time, see you on the next video. Be blessed. Take care.